Hey, Carl, thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks, sir.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
Mike Litton with Keller Realty. This is Carl Kelley with Finance of America, and we asked Carl to come in today to talk about the VA loan process. So we're going to start off with how you go about qualifying for a VA loan. Specifically, you have to have a certificate of eligibility, right?
Correct.
Talk a little bit about how somebody qualifies to get a certificate of eligibility.
So a certificate of eligibility, that's a document that is issued by the military that lets me know, the lender, that you're eligible to have VA financing. So depending on what your state of in service, whether you're retired, whether you're active military, whether you've been in reserves, National Guard, whatever it might be, they've got a certificate of eligibility that you may or may not be eligible for VA financing.
Okay, so 180 days of contiguous service if you're currently active duty. National Guard, they're going to need to call you because there are some restrictions that apply. Honorably discharged from the 4 branches and the Coast Guard.
Correct.
They qualify for a certificate of eligibility.
Yes.
So once they have that, then there's basic documentation. They're required to have 2 years W-2s. They're required to have 30 days pay stubs or 1 month's leave and earning statement, LES, right?
Yep.
If you're in the military, you recognize that.
Yeah.
2 months bank statements. You need 2 years tax returns if
2 years tax returns, if you have businesses that you run, if you have rental properties. A lot of our clients are retired military. They've been very successful in other businesses outside the military, and they might have other things that require those tax returns.
So those personal tax returns would be the 1040s, or do you need the 1040s and the schedules?
The 1040s, schedules, and worksheets.
Okay, perfect. So you need everything. Basically.
We always
so stem
need
to stern, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can it be the taxpayer's copy? That's okay?
Yeah, taxpayer copy
They
is
just have
fine,
to sign it.
as long as it matches with our verification with the IRS.
Correct. Which would be like a 4056T?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so that's something that you can get into with Carl when you call him. A divorce decree, why would a divorce decree be required?
Well, because what happens is, in a divorce decree, that's going to tell us whether or not somebody's receiving child support, because a lot of times they use that for qualifying purposes, child support, alimony. And whenever we have that, it allows us to see that you're going to get a continuation of that for 3 years. If you're going to get it for 3 years, we can use that for qualifying purposes that helps you qualify for a home you might not have otherwise qualified. On the flip side, if you're paying alimony or child support, we want to see how long that has to be paid for and make sure, because that now becomes a debt that we hit you with for qualifying purposes and may lower your purchasing power.
Right, so it increases your debt ratio, which may lower your purchasing power.
Correct.
So if you're somebody who's divorced and you're receiving child support or you're receiving alimony, and let's say child support cuts off the divorce decree says that it cuts off at 18, and your child's 14, you're okay.
You're good.
You can use that income to qualify.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
But if they're 15 and a half and they only get till 18, then you don't get to use it.
Okay.
But
go
if
ahead.
they still, I'm sorry, if they have that debt to pay and they're 15 and a half, even though it's less than 3 years, we still hit them up until the very last payment that they would have that.
Okay, cool. All right, so once we turn all this in, your certificate of eligibility, basic documentation, that kind of thing, then you turn the file into underwriting, and you have underwriting take a look at it for you.
Correct.
Okay. Now this is all before we even begin shopping for a house.
This is at the very beginning, before you ever say, let's go.
So underwriting takes a look, verifies everything, you make sure you have everything.
Yep.
Then you issue a pre-approval.
Correct.
So your pre-approval then is the borrower or the veteran being approved, and then the veteran or the borrower is approved subject to the property. So now the property has to qualify. So let's talk about that for a second, because this is the home loan process. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that one of the more important things that I get a lot from the people at the very beginning is that they're so much more comfortable knowing, here's how much you qualify for, here's how much my monthly payment's going to be. So when they go out and see that home in their price range, they already know what they're getting into, as opposed to, well, I'm not sure we can afford this, or I'm not sure this is in our budget. They will already know before they go out shopping.
Well, let's be honest, if you go out and look for a house before you're pre-approved, you're putting the cart before the horse.
Right.
Right? And if you find the house that you're looking for and you're not pre-approved and you try to put an offer in, they're not going to take it anyway. The seller's not even going to consider it. So you want to have this done. This has to be done ahead of time before you go out and start looking for a house. So once we have all this done, we've got the pre-approval done, the next step is we go out and find a house. We put the offer in, the offer gets accepted,
Right.
we open escrow, and the next thing is we order the appraisal. Talk
That's
about
right.
that for a second.
So what happens is, once we gathered everything up, we've got your contract, we've got escrow open, we're all set, ready to go. The next thing is to make sure that the property we're lending money on is worth the value that you made the offer on.
Right.
So if the offer's made and the VA appraiser is then notified, they have a portal we go through, they're VA approved appraisers, they have to go through special training to be approved by the veterans, and they will take and go out and appraise the property. Now remember, it's an opinion of value.
Right.
No two appraisers are gonna do it exactly the same. But they are professionals and they're going to tell us, the lender, you're given a loan on the property that is worth the value they said it's gonna be worth.
And let's be honest, the appraisal's done to protect the borrower. The appraisal's done so that the borrower, the veteran, regardless of how hot the market gets, that veteran is covered.
Correct.
Right? They're not paying too much for that property.
Right.
And if the appraiser thinks that they're paying too much for that property, then we have to go back and readjust the price. Or we have to figure out another property to buy, figure out a way to solve the problem, whatever that particular challenge might be.
Correct.
So once the appraisal's in, let's assume it comes in at value.
Yep.
Then you take your approval and you take your appraisal and you put it together.
Correct.
And then that goes back through underwriting one more time.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
Underwriting then decides, and let's assume that they approve it. Underwriting then approves the file. Then the next thing is you do what's called now at the very beginning, you've done something called a loan estimate, an LE, right?
Correct.
That you've sent out to the client. The client's seen what it's gonna cost,
Closing
that kind of
costs,
thing.
monthly payments, all that stuff.
Okay, so that's an estimate. Then, once you're through underwriting, then you issue what's called a CD, or a closing disclosure, okay? And that talks about everything. Talks about interest rate, talks about fees, talks about costs, everything.
How much out of pocket?
Exactly. And so that is the cost that you're gonna incur when you go to sign loan documents. That
Correct.
CD or that closing disclosure is sent to you. You then sign off on it, that you've acknowledged that you received it. You have 3 days to consider what you're doing.
Ask
So you
questions.
ask questions, do your research, all that kind of thing. And then once that 3 days is up, then you have the green light as the lender to produce the loan documents. So
Correct.
you
They
then
can
have the
sign.
loan documents drawn.
Correct.
They're then sent to escrow or to a notary. The client, you go in and sign, and you also take in your ID, so make sure you bring in your picture ID.
Have to have that.
Have to have that, because you're gonna sign documents where you have to show that you are the person
Notarized.
signing it,
Those are
right?
getting notarized.
And you have notarized documents too, that also takes a picture ID. So once that's done, then those documents go back to the lender, they come back to
Correct.
you, right? And then once they're back and they're checked in, then you set up for funding.
Correct.
Okay? And escrow gets their numbers from you, they make sure that all the numbers match, and then escrow gives you the green light and it's time to fund.
Yep.
As long as your property checks out, we've done the walkthrough, all that kind of thing, and you're ready to go forward, then you pull the trigger and push the button, escrow tells you to go ahead. You send the money that the borrower's borrowing, right?
Right.
Less money that you put into escrow, and then escrow releases title documents. Title documents go down to the recorder's office.
But before
Go ahead.
that, the very important part you left out, Mike.
Okay,
The funnest part of my job. Hello, your loan is funded,
yeah,
right?
it is fun.
That is.
It is
People
fun.
get all excited and it's all good, so it's really a good thing.
It is
Then,
fun. The thing that's
escrow-
more fun than that, just so you know, is calling and saying that the house is yours. It's
Right, that
confirmed.
comes after that.
So once they release the numbers,
Yeah.
but once they release the numbers, and once the funding comes in, they release the documents for recording, they go down to the recorder's office, and once we have confirmation that we've received from the title company that your documents have in fact recorded, grant deed, trust deed, everything.
Right.
Then the house is yours, and it's time for us to meet with you and to hand you your keys.
Yeah.
I hope this helps you. I'm gonna have information at the bottom of this for Carl, so you can call him with any questions. Obviously, you can call me anytime. I can put you together with Carl. Carl, thanks again for coming in, I
Thank you very
really
much.
appreciate
It's a
it.
pleasure.
I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, you can call me, you can email me, go to my website, sold760.com, and we'll be happy to put you together with Carl, and we'll be happy to help you buy your home. Have a good day.